to talk the tech titans with earnings out later today. Microsoft and Alphabet are, of course, the heaviest hitters, with a combined market cap between the two coming in just shy of $5 trillion. So here to set the stage for us is Logan Gilland, an analyst at GOOGL Financial. Logan, thank you so much for being here amid this earnings chaos.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I mean, it's going to be very interesting. After the Meta news, obviously, this is going to be very, very interesting to see. Kind of the trajectory for the rest of the earnings season, I think, starts tonight, especially with Alphabet and Microsoft, and looking detailed into those two news headlines. It's going to be scrutinized very detailed. I mean, Meta definitely was as well. I mean, they got into the numbers. Investors looked at that, saw some things they didn't like, and obviously the stock has been really beat up because of it. So they're going to be looking really detailed at this Alphabet news and this Microsoft news tonight.
I know, I totally agree that now Meta puts us in a bit of a precarious situation because of, we're down still over 11% on the session. But let's focus on Alphabet to start here, since they're expected to be out first, by all 5 minutes. But walk us through what you're watching as far as their earnings and, of course, their huge push into the world of AI.
Of course, yeah. We actually really like Google or Alphabet. We really like the stock. We really like the name. Forward PE of about 20 with, no debt on their balance sheet. And I think that the earnings estimates are really low comparatively for what is going to happen with AI. I don't think they're factoring in, investors are factoring in the impact AI can have with Google. I think Google will be one of the in-stream biggest winners from the entire AI space and from this entire movement. So we're really hopeful for Google tonight. Again, I think there's going to be a lot of scrutiny, but obviously the stock has come down a little bit from the Meta news. I think we could see some really good numbers out of Alphabet. We're looking forward to it. This is a name that we really like moving forward.
And let's compare and contrast that with the other big titan, as Jenny put it here, Logan, which is Microsoft. I'm old enough to remember June-ish or April-ish of 2022, second quarter 2022, when the market was on the ropes. The bears had them, and Microsoft essentially saved the market. Do you think that's in store maybe this afternoon? Is Microsoft in a position to outperform some expectations?
I remember that day as well, very, very vividly. Microsoft definitely saved the day there. Today, I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case. I think Microsoft is one that's gotten ahead of itself a little bit, especially with their ties to ChatGPT. Anytime you talk about the AI space, people talk about ChatGPT immediately because obviously it was kind of the first in that iteration. And then Microsoft's ties to that, I think, has really ran up the stock. They're trading at a forward PE of about 30 with only expected EPS growth of about 15%. So I think this one's a little bit overvalued right now, at least from the numbers that we're seeing. Obviously, for an overall market standpoint, I hope it's fantastic. I hope the news is great, but I think this one needs some more time to digest. I think it's going to take a little bit of time, and I think Google is going to be the real winner, where Microsoft might struggle a little bit in their earnings call compared to the expectations that this stock has really put on itself.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. It feels like it's now Alphabet's time, because I feel like in the earnings calls as of late, they've fallen in Microsoft's shadow. But obviously that's not indicative of what we could see today. But I'm curious, because you mentioned, of course, the fallout we're seeing with Meta today, and then we had that wild move in Tesla yesterday. But this recent rotation we've seen out of some of these major tech names into the established value havens of the market, is this a healthy correction or something that you think could continue in the midterm?
I do think it's a healthy correction. And the big seven names, the Magnificent Seven, have really dominated this market. They have ran the market for the last year and a half, which has been great. It's saved a lot of the market, where the other 493 names in the S&P 500 haven't done much. So I think it's due for there to be some rotation and some movement into some of the value names and some of the names under the surface. But I also think that there is some spots that you could pick and choose with your big cap tech names that could be of some value still, and there should be some value under the surface. A good one is Tesla. That stock has been absolutely annihilated and beat up significantly. It's one of the companies that really fell out of favor completely compared to all the other big tech names. So we like Tesla. It's one of the only names that's green today on the market. So that's a name that we like. Again, we like Google. And then kind of digging under the surface, because I think some of these other big cap tech names, like your Apple, your Microsoft, even NVIDIA, I think could take a little bit of time to kind of process and back off a little bit.
Along those lines, then, Logan, I think this is an interesting piece of the discussion. We kind of tied this into something we talked about at the top of the show, which is the early kind of attitude or theme of this earnings season is if you've been outperforming, good is not good enough. Great might not be good enough. Look at Netflix, look at Meta. And then in the case of Tesla, the stock was beaten down, expectations were beaten down. It allowed the stock to breathe a little bit to the upside. In the event a name, let's say like Alphabet, comes out, does what you say, which is actually provide some pretty nice financials, but you still see the stock take a little bit of a pullback. Do you see that as an opportunity, or is that something where you say, hey, the market's seeing something that I'm not seeing?
No, I think that's a great point. With a name like Google or Alphabet, that is one that if we did have a pullback on great news, which I think is actually kind of similar to what we saw with Meta. I think Meta may have a little bit more time. It may process a little bit more and kind of it could still have some downside risk. But I think that's another name that you could potentially want to get back into. It seems like they're putting tons and tons of money into AI. Again, one of my themes is that the impact that we're going to see from AI is not fully baked into some of these companies. But again, with Alphabet, if that has a significant sell-off or even just a slightly down move with some great numbers that I think we will see, even with that really extreme scrutiny that's going to happen with it, I think it's a buying opportunity. Now, Microsoft, not quite the same. I think there's going to take some more time. If that one sold off a bit, we'd wait on it and kind of continue to watch.
Okay, yeah, and it helps here, I think, to your point, that we're seeing also moves downside in both of these names, but favoring Alphabet a bit more as we go into their quarterly numbers. Really great insight, and excited to watch the earnings chaos as it unfolds, as I'm sure you will be as well. Thank you so much, Logan Gilland, analyst at Jewel Financial.